And there's going to be people that do what you do, but they can't do it like you. Maybe they were created for this and they were created to do it a specific type of way. Maybe they weren't created for it and they're just doing it because they want to do it. And that's why they can't do it like you. But can't nobody do it like you. And it's not even out of cockiness. It's just out of straight confidence that God has given you, because it's the thing He created you for. And y'all got that kind of relationship where you could talk about it. And you don't even have to compare yourself to anybody else, because nobody else compares. And there's no shade in that. There's no disrespect in that. There's no hating in that. That's just what it is. And when you are so aligned with what God has created you for, and you're so focused on that and your own lane, the lane that He has you on, you don't have to look anywhere else. You don't have to worry about anybody else, because none of that even matters. None of that even matters. And I know, the internet will always take something and misconstrue it. So I know some people might be looking at what I'm saying and be like, well, dang, she's so cocky and she's so disrespectful. It ain't even like that. There's no need for shade, because I know that Big G upstairs got my back. And I know that when I'm walking in a purpose that He created me for and nobody else, can't nobody take this from me unless He decides He wants to take it from me. And that's just unbeatable. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Hood Soft Life Podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina, and in this podcast, we talk about navigating the challenges that come with growing up in the hood and leaving those challenges behind for a soft life. Growing up in the hood comes with its own set of challenges, but what people don't tend to tell you is not only do those challenges follow you once you've made it out physically, but they tend to intensify. So I'm bringing you along on my journey. I'm going to be honest with you about the struggles and the lessons that I'm learning to achieve a soft life. In this episode, we are talking about how sometimes your plan isn't the plan that God has for you, and that's okay. So, let's get started. Y'all, sorry I did not upload last week. I just want to start off with that. Last week was the first week of school, and I was just super focused on making sure my classroom was all set, making sure my lessons were all set. But now that the first week has gone by and it was smooth sailing, I'm ready to get back in the rhythm and to be here with you and be present with you. I also want to just point out that I am not only producing for my own podcast, I now produce for somebody else. If you are looking for a faith-based podcast, you are looking for real and authentic conversations, I now produce for Saved and Unleashed. They are on YouTube and they are currently on Spotify as well. And that has just been a really interesting and exciting experience. I really wanted to learn how to produce for somebody else. And now that I have that opportunity to produce for somebody else, I'm very busy. I produce for myself, I produce for somebody else, and I have a full-time job. And it is a lot. And I'm just trying to figure out how to manage all of the moving pieces and figure out how I can stay consistent with all the things and show up and be the best version of myself that I can be in all of the things without feeling like one thing gets my everything and everything else has to kind of fall on the back burner. So I'm balancing that. And I know I saw a couple of people on TikTok asking where was the episode, and a couple of people kept coming back to the page because I didn't upload anything on TikTok either. And that is why your girl is very busy, but I did not forget about y'all. So let's go ahead and jump into this week's episode. We are talking about how sometimes your plan isn't the plan that God has for you, and that is okay. And the reason I wanted to talk about this week is because after the first week of school and things just going by pretty smoothly, I just had the opportunity to really think about how this was not my plan at all. I never planned on becoming a teacher. I did not go to school for this. I never planned on moving to DC. I never planned on being a Spanish teacher, let alone a teacher at all. But really just sitting there and thinking about how much joy my job brings me and being back into the swing of things, meeting new kids, seeing my old kids from last year, and just really being able to support them and bring my culture into the building has really been an experience that I never would have thought, and mostly because that was not my plan. And so if you are new to this podcast, or maybe you missed a couple of the episodes where I talked about it briefly, I went to school to be a lawyer, and I specifically really wanted to be a forensic psychologist, and I wanted to work for the FBI. And when I decided to be like, I don't know about the FBI, I don't really know if I want to be getting shot at, I was like, you know what? I think I'm cool with just being a lawyer. And I knew I was more than capable enough, more than smart enough to be a lawyer. And I'm like, I don't want to get shot at. So let's go the lawyer route. And that was my plan. Like, I went to school on a pre-law track. And the only reason why I put quotations over that is because we didn't really have one, but I was studying psychology and English, and then I switched to sociology and English, and I ended up deciding that would be the best route for myself. A couple of my other professors had co-signed, like, this would be the best mix for you to study if you want to become a lawyer. And so I was like, all right, bet. And that was the plan. And I even interned at a law firm, and that was kind of like the first time that I was like, I can't do this. Like, this is so freaking boring. Like, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. And I was panicking, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, because for as long as I could remember, going to school and going to law school and becoming a lawyer was all I had planned for my life. That was what success looked like to me. That was the picture that I was going for. And so to get this idea of like, oh, that's not what I want to do, freaked me out, because it was like, I'm in my junior year of college. We're about to leave. And now you're saying you don't want to do this? Like, well, what do you want to do? And I was just super stressed out. I went to school during COVID. I told you guys about this already. I went to school when the height of the pandemic was going on, and we were at home. We were on Zoom. We had a lot of the police brutality being televised heavily. It was just a difficult time. And then to also put that on myself, like, I don't want to do this. Like, if I do this, I'm going to be miserable. It was just a lot. And so I was sitting and thinking to myself this past week, and was just like, I would have never guessed that I would have been a teacher, and that I would be happy with it, and that I would feel content and feel joyful. And just really talking to you about how your plan may not be the best plan for you. It may not be the plan that God has for you in your life, and being okay with that. And let me tell you something right now. When things started to shift for me, and I realized like going to law school was not going to happen, at least right away, and that becoming a lawyer was definitely not going to happen. I didn't want to be a traditional lawyer in a law firm all day. I was just like a mess. Like, everything just felt like my life was falling apart. And it was just like, well, who am I? Like, what do I want to do? Who am I going to be? And I couldn't just pick up another major and start over again. Like, no, who has the funds for that? Like, let's be for real. I couldn't do that. I couldn't put myself in debt. So I continued on that track anyways. And I ended up taking a intro to podcasting class, and that kind of opened my eyes to me being somebody who's a little bit more creative and wanting to do something more creative with my life. And I ended up finding out that I could graduate early, a semester early, and that was unplanned. I did not plan for that. I did not take specific classes to ensure that I could graduate early. It was just like, oh, you have enough credits. Do you want to graduate early, or do you want to waste a semester worth of money in classes just to stay here? And so the way things worked out between college and now was like, graduating early was unplanned. Becoming a teacher at 22, very much unplanned. Applying to grad school, unplanned. Moving to DC, unplanned. Dropping out of Georgetown, unplanned. Becoming a Spanish teacher, unplanned. None of where I'm at was planned, but I couldn't have been more grateful this past week of how things worked out for me, and just getting through the absolute trenches of this journey has really shown me that, like, if you let go of the plan that you have for yourself and you give God the opportunity to really show you where He wants you to be, you will be fulfilled, and you will be so purpose driven and so happy that you won't even need to keep thinking about, how am I going to do this? And how am I going to do that? And how are things going to operate for me? You don't even have to worry about that entirely, because it just happens. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in this episode. But me getting the job that I currently have right now, he made a way for that. This job did not exist before I asked, can I do this? And I just really want to emphasize this again before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode, of just like, really examine the plan that you have for yourself. And if you have a relationship with God, ask yourself, like, is this in alignment with what he wants from me? And you also got to ask him, right? You can't just rely on your own understanding. You need to talk to him. He's the person that created you. He is the person that created your purpose. And you can't decide for yourself, I'm fulfilling my purpose. You're gonna need to talk to the creator to see if you are doing what he created you to do. You may feel like you are doing what you were created to do. I thought that I was doing what I was created to do by going on a pre-law track and deciding that I was going to become a lawyer. And then it wasn't until it was in my face that I was like, oh, nah. This is not the thing for me. And I'm grateful for that. I want to talk a little bit about how in the beginning, when things started to shift, when I was 22 and I first started teaching, this journey was very messy because it felt like I had put all my eggs into one basket in terms of like becoming a lawyer, going to law school, being on a law school track, and the basket broke and it broke all my eggs because when I decided that law school wasn't a thing for me, this wasn't the thing that was going to make me happy, this wasn't going to be the thing that was going to fulfill me, my basket broke, it broke all my eggs, and I pretty much had to start all over from scratch because I was so dead set on this track. I didn't even allow myself to really think about any of the other possibilities or opportunities. I didn't go to college undecided. I didn't take any other classes that weren't worth my time because I knew what I was there for, so I thought. And I was like, I need to take this, that, and a third. I would show up to my advising meeting saying, I know what classes I need to take, and I'm going to take them. Because I've heard some horror stories about advisors, too, who will make you take all these classes you don't need, and now you got to stay an extra year or two for college. No, I don't have the money for that. So I was fully prepared for the plan I had for myself, just for it to all blow up in my face, because it wasn't even the plan that was supposed to be for me. And it was messy, and I felt so disappointed, and not just disappointed in the fact that the plan that I had for myself was basically falling to shit, but because that I had put all this pressure on myself to be this version of myself, to get straight A's and to start thinking about what law schools I want to go to and get prepared to take the LSAT and do all of these things, and then to pretty much tell myself, like, I don't want to do this. Through tears and just being honest and saying I can never do this for the rest of my life. I couldn't even do this for a year. And I was just so disappointed in myself because it's like you spent all this time and all this money and all this effort and all these resources and you did all these internships just for you to turn around and say you don't want to do this anymore. And it was the hardest time, one of the hardest times that I had went through, because when you put your everything into something and it fails, but fails, in my opinion, miserably at the time, you can't help but feel like you need to shit on yourself just a little bit, because it's just like, well, you didn't even think about like the alternatives. But you know, hindsight is always 20/20, and you can never really know what your life is going to look like until you've reached that very moment. And then you see it for yourself, you see it unfolding, or once it's now in the past and it's a memory. But I just remember feeling so disappointed. I was so unconfident in who I was because I put all of this energy into this one path, into this one track, and I don't even want to do it anymore. But that journey of just saying like, I need a job and I need to figure it out. And I knew that I loved working with kids. So I was like, let me just go and teach and figure out what to do next. I had experience doing that, so I knew I could get a job. And who doesn't need a teacher? Like who's never needed a teacher? So as long as I've been alive, okay? We're not talking about before my time. But I was just like, okay, I will do this and we will go from there. And I loved being there for the kids. I did. And I still very much do. But I hated my job. I hated the fact that I wasn't on the path that I thought that I was going to be on. And I was very frustrated with myself because it was just like, you did not plan for this. And you're a planner. And the fact that you did not plan for this and you're a planner and now we're doing something that was way beyond our scope. What do we do next? What's the plan, Sabrina? And Sabrina at 22 had no plan, had no idea, had not a clue what to do next. And I ended up staying in education, but I moved out of the classroom the next year, and my work environment wasn't the best. And that's all I'm going to say about that job. But I was miserable. And I thought that I was miserable because I wasn't on the path that I had planned for myself. But I was miserable because my environment was trash, to be honest, number one. But also because I still wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. And it wasn't until I moved to DC and I started going to Georgetown that I realized I'm kind of there, but I'm not really there. Like, I think when I took my intro to podcasting class my last semester of college, I really had an eye-opening moment of like, this is something that I could do. And it wasn't until I started my podcast in 2023-ish, 2024. Honestly, all the years are a blur. But when I started my podcast, I know it was January of a year. And when I started my podcast and I made just the trailer, all I did was make the trailer. I remember bursting into tears and just being like, this is something I could do for the rest of my life. This is something that I want to do. I want to be able to create stuff like this on a consistent basis, help people, push people. And I felt like this was what I was created for, and this is what I need to be doing. Coming to Georgetown and moving to DC for this, pretty much not getting what I thought that I was going to get, was also a frustration. But again, I don't think that it was ever in God's plan for me to go to Georgetown and for me to become a podcast producer that way. And that's why things didn't work out the way that they did. I was extremely burnt out. I was extremely exhausted. I was frustrated with my academic endeavors because I felt like I was paying a lot of money for something that wasn't going to help me at all. And so even though leaving was a hard decision, it wasn't a hard decision because I knew it was what I was supposed to do and I was saying no. It was a hard decision because I knew I didn't have to do that, and I did it anyways, and I had attached so much worth and so much of my identity to the second degree that letting go of that felt like a failure. It felt like I was letting go of myself. You know, I think that it's only about 11% of Black women have a master's degree. And I was so tied to that and just being the first person in my family to get a master's degree and whatever, that letting go of that felt like such a big failure. But it was something that I was never supposed to do. I wasn't supposed to go to Georgetown to get a master's degree or anything. And I think if anything, Georgetown was just a short, small vessel that was supposed to get me to come to DC. Because what I will say is that once I got to DC, I started becoming a very, very different person than who I was when I lived back home. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the last thing I want to say is that with me and my job, I taught science last year, if you don't know, and now I teach Spanish, and my transition to my job was difficult. It was very hard. I came in a month after the school year had started, and it was just not the best foundation for me. But as the year went on and I developed relationships with the kids and I started getting my little flow of how things were going to work for me, it ended up working out beautifully for me. And just getting to this point now where I can be grateful for that, because I always said, I'm going to be done with teaching. I'm going to be done with teaching. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But honestly, I think I hated the fact that I wasn't on the path that I thought that I was going to be on. Don't get me wrong. Being a teacher is hard. Being a teacher is extremely difficult. It is not for the weak at all. But I couldn't imagine myself doing something else right now full time. I love podcasting. I love producing. I love social media, media production, and all that stuff. But I couldn't see myself leaving the kids right now. And I think that that's because that's where God has me right now. That's my purpose for this moment in time, is to really sit there, pour into them as much as I can until he decides to tell me what my next step is. I want to talk a little bit about the contrast of like living in my plan versus living in the plan that God has for me. When I was really focused on executing my plan, I was focused on executing that plan to a T. There was no room for mistakes. There was no room for trying something else. This was the plan. We're sticking to the plan. You're just going to go straight, take a left, take a right, keep going straight. That was it. There was barely any room for error. There was barely any room for creativity. And with that, there was just so much pressure. There was so much disappointment when things didn't go exactly the way that I planned. There was so much stress because if things didn't work out exactly how I wanted, or if I had to pivot, it was just so frustrating. And I think it's because I was holding on so tightly to this vision of what my life was supposed to look like, because I said so, not because he said so, that I was just driving myself to this point of disappointment all the time. I was driving myself to this point where I was just like, it felt like I couldn't do anything right. And even though I was doing great in school, I was working very hard, I had multiple jobs, and I was very active on my campus. To me, it felt like I'm not doing things right. I'm not doing something right because something still feels off, something still feels wrong. And letting go of that pressure and letting go of that plan, even though I did not let go willingly at all in the beginning, letting go of that had allowed me to really be open to what God has for me. And it was messy. I didn't love the transition. I'm going to be honest with you. I did not love being a teacher the first year. Again, I love my kids and I will never take that for granted. I will never say that that wasn't the case. I love my kids, but I didn't want to be a teacher, and I hated that, and I resented that. I resented my job, and I just resented the fact that, like, I have no idea what I am doing, and I thought that I had a clue when I was so stuck on my plan and when I was so rigid on my plan, but in all honesty, I had no clue regardless. I think we have this idea that if we make a plan for ourselves and we plan it out to the T, and we start checking things off the list, we know what we're doing. We don't know what we're doing, because at the end of the day, we're not in control as much as we think that we are. So when you finally just let go of that control and you give God at least some control, because I'm a control freak and I would be lying to you if I said that I gave God my entire life and said, here, do it with it what you will. I'm still working on that. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But once you start letting go of that and saying, here, I don't know what to do. You got it. You got it, Big G, because I clearly don't have it. When you start doing that, you will be surprised to see how things move to work in your favor. And I didn't see it that first year of teaching when I was 22 and 23. I didn't see it that second year when I was 23 or 24. I didn't even see it this third year when I was teaching science. No, it took 4 years-ish for me to get to where I'm at now. And because I let go and I gave him that ability to say, show me, because I clearly can't figure it out, I've gotten to a point now where I am living in peace and I'm living joyfully and I feel fulfilled. And don't get me wrong, it's only the first week, okay? We still got plenty of time to get in the trenches. But I think that even when things get difficult in my job, because I know that they will, I'm still going to be grateful for the fact that this is my job and I still couldn't see myself doing anything else. Let's be real, if I wanted to leave, I could have left a long time ago, but there was something that was clearly still keeping me there. And yes, it's the kids, but also at some point you can't just do it for others. You also have to do it for yourself. And I think there was something about me not wanting to leave just yet is what was keeping me there, on top of me wanting to still be there for the kids. And so letting go of my plan and giving God some room in my life to steer me in the right direction really got me to a point that I would have never imagined. I wouldn't have imagined this life that I'm living because this wasn't the plan. And if I had stuck to my plan, I would be miserable. I'd probably still be living at home. I would not be living in my purpose at all. I probably wouldn't even have a podcast or any idea of a podcast of any sort. I wouldn't even have known that this was something that I would be passionate about because I didn't give myself the opportunity to see what else is out there. And it's just like moving out of your hometown or moving out of your home state and traveling the world. You would have no idea what is out there in the world if you don't give yourself the opportunity. So I want you to really think about that when it comes to your own plan. You have no idea what else is out there because you are clutching on to your plan for dear life, like your life depends on it. But maybe your life would depend on you loosening that grip just a little bit, just to see what else is out there. Me loosening my grip on my plans and my path, even with me going to Georgetown, because that was my plan. That wasn't God's plan for me at all. Loosening that grip and allowing myself to drop out and see where life takes me. And if I get the ability to produce a podcast for somebody else, that was all God. Okay. I dropped out in December of 2024 and a couple of months go by and I ended up getting a text message from somebody at my church asking me, do I want to help somebody produce their podcast? And I was extremely excited about the opportunity because this is exactly what I wanted. I spent a whole semester at a prestigious school that cost me thousands of dollars and I wasn't learning, not even an inkling. And there was no inkling in sight that I was going to learn how to produce for someone else. I can already produce for myself. I've got that down packed with the equipment that I currently have. But being able to produce for somebody else with multiple hosts and learning how that stuff works, like that's a whole new ball game. And so because I let go of my plan and I let God take some room in my life to steer me in the direction that he wanted to take me in, I got that opportunity to be able to produce for somebody else. And I get paid to produce for somebody else. I don't get paid for my podcast, and I'm cool with that for now. But to be able to tell them, yo, I don't know how to produce for somebody else right now, but I want to learn. And it's something that I'm very passionate about. And I will do the research and I will tell you what you need. And I will do all of that stuff on my own. But if you're okay with knowing that I don't know, but I'm willing to learn, I'm enthusiastic to learn, then we could do this. And they were like, we don't care. We are cool with you learning. We are cool with you figuring this out. Let's build this up. Let's get this off the ground. And it was hard. It was hard. There was stuff that I was trying to figure out. And my biggest fear was feeling like I would give up on my podcast to pour my everything into the other one. And I made that very clear to the host that I'm working for. And he ended up saying, like, I don't want that to be the case for you either. I don't want you to give up on your podcast and pour your everything into ours. And we came to a really good agreement, and it works for me. And not only do I get the opportunity to produce for somebody else and just build up a skill that I wanted to, but I get an opportunity to serve the kingdom in a way that I enjoy. And I'm very, very grateful for that. And I think that people get this idea of like serving a church has to be very specific and it has to look a specific kind of way. And it really doesn't. Not only do I get the opportunity to serve the kingdom by producing that podcast and getting that stuff out there, but I work the camera at my church now and I enjoy it. All I do is move the camera back and forth. But that helps them get the sermons up on YouTube so that other people who can't attend in person get to watch it. And that's glorifying the kingdom and that's serving the kingdom in a way that I enjoy. Again, all I do is move the camera back and forth right now. I may want to pick up some other stuff later on, but I enjoy that. And it brings me so much joy to show up every Sunday, to stand behind the camera and just to help them out in that kind of way. And that would have never happened if I never gave God the opportunity to move me in a different way. I would have never even found this church if I didn't open myself up to the possibility of going to church and listening to the word and being open to becoming a better Christian and living a Christian life. And I'm not perfect by any means. And there is no need for me to strive for perfection at this moment in time. I'm working on it. I'm growing and I'm learning. But because I let go of that vision of perfection, because that's what I had. Let's be honest. If I'm gripping onto that path for dear life, is because I thought that that would be perfection. I thought that that would be success. But because I let go of that, I'm able to be in a position now where I'm fulfilled. I'm purpose driven. There is a feeling inside of me that I can't even describe to y'all. It makes me emotional and I don't want to cry, but I'm not even sad. I'm just like, I'm extremely happy because I'm doing things that bring me joy, and I would have never thought that these things, I never thought that I could do something, get paid for it, and it brings me this much joy. There's so many people that talk about how they hate their jobs, or their job doesn't fulfill them, or they wish they could do something else, but they need to do this because it pays them. There are some things that I do get paid for that bring me joy, and there are some things that I don't get paid for that I do just because they bring me joy and because I get to help somebody else. When you let go of your plan and you allow God to move in his way in your life, not only does that open doors for you, but he will create a door that wasn't even there. Me being a Spanish teacher at my job, there was no language class before. There was no Spanish in any of the schools in my district. I just want to make that very clear. Not just my school. There was no Spanish in any of the schools in my district at the middle school level. But because a coworker came up to me and said, yo, you speak Spanish. Why don't you teach the kids Spanish? I was like, yeah, I don't really want to do that. I think I'm all set on the teaching stuff. I want to leave, blah, 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 whatever. And he just kept saying, like, I think you should push for it. I think you should talk to them. Like, I think that would be dope. And a couple of the other adults had heard like our conversation. They were like, I would sit in on that class. Like, I want to learn and I want to grow the skills, whatever. And me finally asking, like, hey, like, what are your thoughts on having a Spanish teacher? A couple of months go by, I get my contract renewed, but they're like, we want you to teach Spanish. We think that it would be a great opportunity for the kids. None of the other middle schools in our district have a Spanish class, and we really want to be able to utilize you in that way. And at the time, I was so excited. Don't get me wrong. I was so excited. But at the time, I did not see the way that God had created me for that job. God had created that job for me. It could have easily went to somebody else, but it didn't, because there was nobody there that was created for that. God created me for that, and he made sure that not only did he create me for that, but he showed me, not only am I going to create you for something, but I'm going to create something for you to fulfill that purpose that I created you for. And sitting down this week and having the opportunity to really be thankful for my job, to reflect on how I got here in the first place, and just seeing the way that things had played out for me to this point, like learning Spanish and having that be my first language, and growing up that way, learning English majority at school, and becoming a teacher and building relationships with kids so easily, and getting to this point where I could have this job. Like, these tiny steps along the way that in hindsight make more sense now, but during the time they made no sense. Me becoming a teacher made no sense at the time. And me knowing Spanish and me having Spanish as a first language, like, to me, that's like whatever. That just flies over the head, because that's just my norm. But seeing how God really created this life and how all these little pieces played out for me to be in this position, I just don't have any words for you. I really don't. And I'm really just trying to hold myself together. But let go of whatever plan that you are holding on so tight to, because if it's not working, it's not working for a reason, and you got to go back to the drawing board. And don't get me wrong, when that basket broke and all my eggs then broke on the floor, because I put all my eggs in that one basket, it was very difficult. But would have also been difficult if I had decided to stick to my path, even though I knew I'd be miserable, and just committed to that. And I couldn't even imagine what my life would look like. All I know is that I would be miserable. And there's no guarantee that I even would have been successful. I'm very smart. I could have easily have been a successful lawyer, but because I'm not passionate about it, and because it's not something that I was created to be, I don't think that I would have lasted long in that career, just because it's not what I was supposed to be. Just because you are smart enough to do something, just because you have the skills to do something, doesn't mean that that's the thing that you are created to do. That doesn't mean that you should or have to do it. And I just want to say that this feeling that I have internally of like being so emotional and so happy about where I'm at, and giving God the space to move me even just a little bit, because I am a control freak, and he and I, we both know that. We're working on it. But giving him the opportunity to move me in a way that allows me to see what I was created for, what my purpose is, it has, I want y'all to have this feeling. I want y'all to be so speechless. Like, anybody that is close to me knows, like, when have I been left speechless? Hardly ever. But I want y'all to be so speechless, because you're so full of joy that you can't even describe this feeling. You just feel it, and you're like bursting at the seams, because it feels so good. I want that for y'all. And so I'm telling you, I'm urging you, I'm encouraging you, all the things, all the synonyms. I am really encouraging you to just let go, even if it's just a little bit. Let go just a little bit, so that you can see what God has planned for you. Because one thing's for sure, and two things for certain: God's plan will always be better than your plan. And you may not get to see his plan and how good his plan is, because you're too busy worrying about your own plan. And sure, you may think that you're living cool. You may think that you're living nice. You might have a good life with your plan. But imagine how much better your life would be if you gave him an opportunity to just move you just a little. Even if it's 5 degrees over here, give him the opportunity to do that. Give him the opportunity to show you how good it can get if you allow him some space in your life. Let's talk about why it's so hard to let go of our own plan, because let's be real, it is difficult. Maybe you're not a control freak like me, and you just don't want to let go, because maybe you have all these people in your life pressuring you to pursue this path. Maybe it's your friends, your family, your loved ones, your partner, whatever, and they're like, go for this, you'd be good at this, and da-da-da-da. And they may have your best interest at heart, and they may think that they are helping you. They may think that they are doing this out of love, but maybe you're only doing this because they're saying so. Maybe you're only doing this because you have tied your identity to it. And I understand. Me going to grad school and getting another degree, I tied my identity to that. I tied my identity to that so heavily that I had to drop out to realize like my worth isn't tied to a piece of paper. My worth isn't tied to a title. I could get all these titles, I could have all these accolades, but my worth would still mean nothing if I tied it to these things, because who would I be without these pieces of paper, without these titles, without these accolades? It doesn't matter. If I don't feel confident within myself without these pieces of paper and without these titles, do you really think that these pieces of paper and these titles are going to change your level of confidence? They are not. They are not. And the other thing about it too is that I didn't gain this level of confidence that I currently have until I started walking in my purpose, until I started feeling fulfilled, until I started doing the things that God created me to do. And I'm not saying that I'm doing everything that He created me to do, right? I think we're getting to pieces slowly and surely. And it's only a matter of time before we start moving on to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. But where I'm at now and just being so fulfilled because I gave Him that opportunity, like, it has boosted my confidence level so much. I don't feel so insecure. I don't feel so lost and so confused and so disappointed in myself and disappointed in my path, because I'm where I'm supposed to be for the moment. And I'm not worried about next year. I'm not worried about the next 5 years. I'm worried about right now. That's all it is. I need to soak this up first before I even start thinking about anything else. And even then, I can't think too far ahead by myself. I got to have that conversation with Big G upstairs before I do anything else. But another reason why it could be so difficult to let go of your own plan is because you don't know what else is out there. You may have just been so focused on this path that you don't even know what else is out there, and you're worried about like the unknown. But honestly, you got to take that step, because in the unknown could be the most beautiful thing that you ever get to experience in your life, whether that's a partner, whether that's a career, whether that's just a new life, a new church, new friends. You will never know if you don't try, but always sticking to the things that you know, like that just gets boring, that gets mediocre, that gets played out, that gets drawn out. And there's only so much you can do with that before you need something else to expand who you are, to build yourself as a person, to build your character. So really just give yourself the opportunity to let those things go. And I know it can be difficult, and I understand that it can be difficult. That is human nature. We all want to be in control of something, but I promise you, letting go of that thought that you have all this control that you think you have, and just acknowledging that you don't have as much control as you think you have, and giving space for the Creator to take some control over your life, that will open so many doors for you. And I'm not just talking about physically or tangibly or career-wise or whatever. Like, you may find the person that God has for you because you allowed Him some opportunity to move in your life. You may find the career that you want. You may just find the person you always wanted to be. You may have always wanted to be confident, and you may have always wanted to be happy with what you do, and you may have always wanted to be this and that and the third, and you're not going to find it if you do not give Him some space to move in your life. Again, even if it's only 5 degrees this way, give Him some room to do that for you. And I think the thing about this whole journey of life, and just this journey that I'm on right now in just this short period of time of college to post-grad, I'm almost 5 years out, y'all. Can y'all believe that? But just this journey alone has really allowed me to see that, you know, when you're driving and you miss the exit and you're dumb salty, like I missed a couple of exits, but that was on purpose. I was supposed to miss those exits, and I don't even know what would have happened to my life if I had took those exits, or worse off yet, and I know somebody has experienced this before in their life. You take the exit and you spend 20 minutes just going around a circle just to end up back on the highway anyways, because you weren't supposed to take the exit and the GPS was tripping. I don't want you to waste time taking an exit that you weren't supposed to take just because it brings you right back onto the highway anyways. If you had just skipped the exit, it would have rerouted and you would have still made it to the destination that you were supposed to make it to. And it may not have been the way that you thought you were going to get there, but you made it to the destination that you were supposed to make it to. The destination that God had planned for you, not the destination that you think you have planned for yourself. The destination you think you have planned for yourself is the one where you take the exit and you end up going in a circle for 20 minutes and you end up back on the highway anyways because you weren't supposed to take the exit regardless. So give yourself the opportunity to see what God can do for you because you allowed Him some movement, some opportunity to shift you and build your character in this journey. Let's just talk about the beauty of the unplanned. The thing about the unplanned, right? I talked to y'all about it already. Graduating early was unplanned. Becoming a teacher was unplanned. Applying to Georgetown was super unplanned. Moving to DC was super unplanned. I did not even have the funds to make it out here. I don't even know. Well, I do know now. Big G, thank you. But I didn't even have the money to make it out here. Dropping out of Georgetown, unplanned. Becoming a teacher was unplanned. Becoming a science teacher, unplanned. But becoming a Spanish teacher was, all of this was unplanned. But you know what? The beauty in the unplanned is that I got to meet some amazing people along the way. I love my church. I love the people at my church. I love the people that I work with on these other podcasts. I met some great people at my job, and I would never have met them if I just stuck to my plan. I got to be introduced to some new hobbies and some new passions. There would be no podcast if I stuck to the plan. There would be no producing for others if I stuck to the plan. There would be no realization that media and media production would have been a passion for me if I had just stuck to the plan. And I think the other thing about it too is that you get these new connections or you get these new hobbies when you open yourself up to possibilities that you never thought were going to happen for you. And the most important thing about it all is that you get this authentic version of yourself when you open yourself up to the unplanned. Like I talked about, this level of confidence that I have within myself, I thought I was going to get this level of confidence by working out in the gym and eating a certain diet and gaining or losing a certain amount of muscle and whatever. I thought that all of this was external, and it's really not. When you start walking in your purpose and when you start living out the plan that God has for you, when you start living in alignment with the plan that He has for you, your confidence just elevates. And it's coming from a place of good. It's not coming from a place of, well, my body is T, so whatever. It's not coming from a place of, well, I'm better than so-and-so, because it's not even like that. It's not even cockiness. It's just, I know that I'm doing the thing that God had created me to be. I'm doing the thing that God created me to do. And because I'm doing that and it's working out well because it's the thing that He created me for, and He created the thing for me, I don't even gotta do nothing else. I don't even gotta try too hard because this was His plan. And when you don't have to try too hard, your level of confidence just shoots up. It doesn't even matter. Anything else doesn't even matter. And there's gonna be people that do what you do, but they can't do it like you. Maybe they were created for this and they were created to do it a specific type of way. Maybe they weren't created for it and they're just doing it because they want to do it, and that's why they can't do it like you. But can't nobody do it like you. And it's not even out of cockiness. It's just out of straight confidence that God has given you, because it's the thing He created you for. And y'all got that kind of relationship where you could talk about it. And you don't even have to compare yourself to anybody else, because nobody else compares. And there's no shade in that. There's no disrespect in that. There's no hating in that. That's just what it is. And when you are so aligned with what God has created you for, and you're so focused on that and your own lane, the lane that He has you on, you don't have to look anywhere else. You don't have to worry about anybody else, because none of that even matters. None of that even matters. And I know, the internet will always take something and misconstrue it. So I know some people might be looking at what I'm saying and be like, well, dang, she's so cocky and she's so disrespectful. It ain't even like that. There's no need for shade, because I know that Big G upstairs got my back. And I know that when I'm walking in a purpose that He created me for and nobody else, can't nobody take this from me unless He decides He wants to take it from me. And that's just unbeatable. There is no more disappointment. There is no feeling disappointed in myself. There is no feeling lost. There is no feeling confused, because I'm doing what He created me to do, and it feels so good. So good. All right, let's talk about a couple of practical tips for letting go of your plan. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's not a list in the world that I could tell you, or that anybody could tell you, that will make this feel easier for you. It's not going to feel easy. Shifting and becoming a new person and growth is not supposed to feel easy for you. That is the whole point. But if you are uncomfortable, that's a good sign. And so the first thing is to give yourself permission to grieve the plan. It's okay to feel sad that the thing that you wanted so badly did not work out the way you thought it would. It took me a long time to grieve the fact that I wasn't going to become a lawyer, at least in the way that I thought. I'm not saying law school is off the table, but I'm also not pressuring myself to go back to school anytime soon. If that's the plan God has for me, then we could talk about it. But I'm not just going to keep making decisions without really thinking about it and without talking to Big G upstairs. But grieve the plan that you thought that you were going to have. If you were like me and you put all your eggs in that basket and that basket then broke and it broke all of your eggs, you're going to be upset about it. You're going to be sad about it. You might even be angry. Feel your feelings. There's nothing wrong with that. Be careful what you do with that anger, though. The next thing is stay curious. Stay curious to what is out there. You don't know what there is out there. You don't know every job in the world. You don't know every job title. You don't know every person. You don't know every opportunity. You don't know every possibility. Be open-minded. Ask questions. Take a look around. Meet new people. Try new things. You never know what you will like if you don't try new things, if you don't stay curious, if you don't open your mind up to new things, new people, new opportunities, new whatever. Start noticing the joy in your life. Pay attention to the things that light you up, that bring joy in your life, that bring peace, that make you feel fulfilled. Pay attention to those things. You might be doing some things that bring you joy, but you're kind of pushing them to the back burner because they don't pay you enough, you don't have the time for it. Really take inventory of the things that are bringing you joy and just keep that in mind as you start to figure out what it is that God has planned for you. And don't make any decisions on your own just because, oh my God, this thing made me so happy. Like, you really have to take the time to think about it. The next thing is detach from timeliness. Stop telling yourself that I need to achieve this and that and the third before I'm 30, before I'm 25, before I'm 27, whatever. You don't know how long it's going to take. You really don't know. And for you to attach yourself to this timeline is only setting yourself up for disappointment and it's setting yourself up for failure because you're going to be upset with yourself when you don't achieve the thing that you wanted to by that certain timeline that you set for yourself. And you may just say, I'm going to call it quits because I didn't achieve it by this time. Don't do that to yourself. Be open to how long it's going to take. And social media and society will make you feel like because you didn't achieve something by a certain time that you're a waste of space and da-da-da-da. Please tune that out. Because half of these people on here have no idea what they're talking about and they're still trying to figure it out for themselves. And even if they did achieve the things that they wanted to achieve by a certain time, that doesn't mean that they're happy. That doesn't mean that they're fulfilled. That doesn't mean that they're walking in their purpose. The last thing is to trust that alignment feels better than control. When you are aligned with your purpose, that is such an unbeatable feeling. And I keep saying that because I genuinely can't describe it to you. But thinking that I was in control of my life at the time and that I had all these plans and I was checking off these boxes, but then I got to that stopping point of like, this ain't even for you. Like, I promise you, when you are aligned with the purpose that God has for you, when you are aligned with the reason that He created you, it doesn't even compare to control. You don't even have to be in control. Things just start working in your favor because you're doing what He created you to do. You're talking to Him about it. You're giving Him opportunity to move in your life. You're giving Him space to move in your life. You don't even have to worry about taking control, and it feels way better than control because it's gonna start feeling like things are just happening for you. That's all Big G upstairs. That is all the man upstairs. As we get ready to close out this episode, I really just want to leave a couple of main points for you. And the first thing is to please stop clutching onto the pearls of your plan and start loosening your grip just a little bit. Start slow, start small, and giving yourself the opportunity to let God in and really shift you to where He wants you to be, because you keep making all these plans, you keep having all these ideas, you keep thinking that you're about to do things a certain way, and it's not working out for a reason. And even if it is working, you may find that you're not as happy as you thought you were going to be. Give yourself the opportunity to see what else is out there. The next thing is that if I had stuck to the plan that I had for myself, I would have missed out on this opportunity of feeling joy, of feeling peace, of feeling fulfilled. And I do not want that for you. I do not want you to stick to this plan so much so that you miss out on the opportunities of feeling joy, of feeling peace, of feeling fulfillment, of feeling like you have pursued and fulfilled your purpose in this life. I do not want you to miss out on that feeling. So give yourself the opportunity to feel that. And the last thing I want you to keep in mind is that it's gonna be messy. I would be lying to you if I said that I figured it all out so quickly. It took me years. It really did. And it's probably still going to take me a couple more years. I'm happy with where I'm at right now, but there's going to be a point in time where it's time to move again. It might be time to pivot again. Who knows? And it's going to be messy. And you don't know what you're going to do. You don't know how you're going to do it, but be okay with that, because that mess is not going to stay messy forever. Just like how it doesn't rain forever, it's not going to stay messy forever. And it might take you small periods of time here and there to start picking up the pieces and really figuring out where things go. But one day you are going to look up and realize that that mess you are looking at is now this beautiful picture, is this beautiful life. And because you gave yourself an opportunity to sit with the mess, to live in the mess, and slowly start picking up the pieces and figuring out where things go, you created this beautiful life for yourself with the help of God, because you allowed him to do that with you. You allowed him to do that for you. For the sake of time, I'm just going to leave the shadow work prompts in the description. They will also be posted on social media. I highly recommend that you look at those, because they will really give you an opportunity to think about why you are so attached to this plan, why you are so committed to this plan, and what your life would look like if you decide to let go of the plan that you have for yourself. But with that, we're going to go ahead and move to our affirmation of the week. We have reached that point where we are at the affirmation for this week. And the affirmation for this week is, I embrace the joy of living in alignment rather than perfection. I'm going to go ahead and repeat that 3 times. If you have the ability to close your eyes, close your eyes. If you want to write this down, however you want to speak this positivity onto your life, find a way to do it. So, I embrace the joy of living in alignment rather than perfection. I embrace the joy of living in alignment rather than perfection. I embrace the joy of living in alignment rather than perfection. All right, y'all, that is all I have for you this week. I would love to hear how you are doing. Just go ahead and let me know. I didn't really leave any space for that at the beginning, because I really just wanted to get into the meat and potatoes of this conversation. But I really hope that me sharing my journey and my experience with you really gives you an opportunity to open your eyes and see where you could let God in, so that he can shift you to where he wants you to be, and so that you can start living in your purpose if you haven't already, so you can start being fulfilled if you don't feel fulfilled right now. And I really just want that feeling for you more than anything. And so with that being said, you can go ahead and follow us on IG and TikTok, both at the HSL Pod. TikTok is way better, I'm sorry, but I still post on IG. If you want to see a little bit more about my day-to-day personal life, you can follow me both at IG and TikTok at Sabrina, SABRINAA .LIZET. I have been working on some teacher content, getting it out there for y'all. I know some people are very interested in learning Spanish. I don't know if I can really give you what you think you're looking for, because I really can't record that much of my class. I definitely can't record my kids, but I will do the best that I can to show you what I've been teaching, or just to show you a little bit of my day-to-day in terms of that. And, you know, with me being a podcast producer for more than one podcast now, that will be on there. And again, I'm really just praying for y'all. I'm praying that if even just one person opens themselves up to allow God in and to shift them off the path that they are on and onto the path that he wants them to be on, then I feel like I've done my job. And so I just hope that you have an amazing week. I hope that you take care of yourself. I look forward to talking to y'all in the comments on TikTok, because that's where y'all love to be, and I love to be there with y'all. And I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.